Welcome to part 11 of the mod making series for locked loot containers. In this episode, we are going to try to make it so when you open or when you actually activate a chest and do whatever, at least in this case, we're just going to do the pick lock. Doesn't really matter. The main important function we're going to try to do is to turn our chest from its locked state, or whatever you want to call it, its original state, to basically turn it into an opened version, which also just functions as a loot pile, essentially. I'm assuming, or I'm fairly sure that, at least for now, the way I'm thinking about it, it's probably going to use very similar code to where we originally replaced the old loot pile and put our own object. But instead, we're going to be replacing our own object with with another custom sprite, which is going to be the opened version of the chest, and taking over behavior from the previous one, just like we did. Basically, the exact same process almost, except this time it's going to actually put that loot into a loot pile object, and then it should hopefully work the same as a loot pile, just like when you click on one and such. At least that's the first way that I'm thinking of doing it. So that's what we're gonna do. Not gonna bullshit too much here, and yeah, let's turn on the music and enjoy, I guess. And this is Donkey Kong Country 2 Bramble Blast. So essentially, we're just gonna probably try and put this behavior inside of here, which is gonna be like right in the middle here for now. Later we might even just get rid of this, but we'll see. Yeah, honestly, like I just said, I might be able to just copy and paste a lot of this, or most of it, and just basically change a few things here and there to do as I want in this case. Because I don't have to replicate these things of finding the things, since I know what it is. Or at least I should. Yeah, that assumption is not necessarily true, actually. So I do still need the object that was just clicked. But here, let's copy and paste that stuff here for now. Because that's something I forgot to consider, but we'll should be fairly easy to resolve that. Just need a reference to the chest that was clicked, because right now there is, in this functional part here with all the message box and stuff, there is no reference at all to what the player actually clicked or anything. There's like, so if you wanted to know which one was clicked, like from one of those message boxes, you would have to do something else, as we're gonna have to do, because I didn't find that reference yet, which I can hopefully just take from possibly up here at the activation part, and then raycast hit potentially. But let's see what things hit actually has inside of it. Might be able to do it like this. I've never done this before, but it seems like it would make sense. So this raycast hit thing, at least from what I'm seeing, is basically like a reference to what was actually hit in this case by the raycast. So this variable hit has inside of it stuff like this collider, which apparently says the collider that was hit, which in this case we would hope is the collider of our object, obviously, that we care about. Then with collider, I was assuming, okay, then I would think that it probably has the game object it's attached to, which it does. So hopefully this is the reference that we're looking for in this case, the actual game object of our chest in the scene. And then we could set this to some value, possibly a global one or something, and have it so one of these can actually use it for what they want to do. In this case, I'm just going to be I'm just gonna go to one of my other mods, in this case, arena style flavor text. I mean, it could be almost any of the other ones, but this one I have it specifically labeled. Have it just below that. Organization sake. Where is mod? There it is. Put that there as a global variable, kind of. You know, it's probably not the cleanest way to do it in some cases, but hopefully it'll work. Like the kind of idea behind global variables is like they're just a variable that you could kind of use without having to worry about what class and stuff it's in, and it's kind of what it's for, as well as you could change it between things. Like these variables are, I guess you could call them local variables, like here, and it's only defined within this actual method, basically. Outside of that, it doesn't exist. But this global variable, the idea at least, is that this can be referenced in any of these methods, and it'll have the same value, at least in theory, when you change it from, if you change it in here, and then if you changed it in here the next time or something, it would actually stick for both, because they'd be both calling from the same quote-unquote global reference up here, or global variable, whatever. That's my probably horrible explanation of what those are, but that's how I use them, essentially. So we want to change... Let's do it up here, why don't we? So chest obj equals that. Sets hit chest to hit chest sets clicked chest as global variable reference for later use in other methods. That's essentially the idea I'm trying to go for there. And then I should be able to use it somewhere down here, because these happen... This part, chest choice pop-up on button click, can't happen until this happens, so I shouldn't have an issue where this thing isn't defined. The only time that this might happen, or it's weird, and I'm going to make a exception for that, or whatever, I'm going to make, like, just in case, is somehow this doesn't run or something. But what I can do is just do a simple if statement check, where it's like, if this global reference is null, then do something instead of throwing an error, basically. Or just stop execution. But I should be able to use this global reference now to actually reference the object itself. But one thing I have to be careful about is don't delete that thing before I'm done with it, basically. Otherwise I might have issues, possibly. So in this LLC object, I have old loot as the old chest loot, but then I want attached that the actual be like what is inside the chest that has been like either created or changed in the end, but added with this most likely. In this case, I'll probably have to change that down here somewhere to, for now at least, until I do more logic, make this equal to attached loot 2 so I can use the attached loot. And it's just going to be a copy of old pile loot for now. But I'd rather do that now instead of later getting confused at what I was doing. Yeah, so I'll just do it, like, right here. So now I could just say closed chest data dot attached loot. Yep. And that is the closed chest loot that we were referring back to. And then the transform will be the chest object reference. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna have way better names, hopefully, at the end of this, when I do more cleaning up and polishing, because right now these are, like, really... I mean, I guess they work, but they're not great. Like, if somebody wanted to refer to this, they'd be like, what the hell is this about? I don't know. Well, just do it now, like that for now. It's gonna be much different later. That will now be this dot parent, which I think should work because it's in the same as the other one, so that should be the same. I think. Or does that go into another? I might have to change this. May have to change if loot piles go into another parent. Go into another folder. I don't know. That's probably not the proper name. But it makes more sense to me. May have to change if loot piles go into another folder. That's not really necessary per se, but I'd like them, like, if it is a loot pile I'm creating, I'd like it to go into the same hierarchy place as the other stuff that is considered in that, possibly. So right now it should work, but we'll see. An LLC object, not doing that. Yeah, we're not doing that part because this is just going to be a loot. But actually we are doing that now that I think about it. But we're doing it with a different thing. This time it's going to be, I think, Daggerfall loot. And then we're going to change characteristics of that here. Which, let's look at them real quick, I guess. I don't know if these are, like, already defined. Which they might not be. Yeah, so I'm probably going to have to set those myself, which is fine. Let's see if there's a, what do you call it? A, game object helper for loot. Might be. Looks like there is. Yeah, possibly instead of the billboard. Possibly. I'll do, that one instead. Create loot container. Create loot container types. We'll give it that. Alright. Delete this for now. So I can get a better clean slate. So we want to make this random treasure, most likely. Or maybe nothing. Maybe nothing. Because the thing is, if we make it random treasure, this is just... like, the way the dungeons, at least dungeons in that case, normally work is that they don't save between, like, when you enter a dungeon and then you exit it. And then when you enter again, it, like, resets everything. That's the vanilla behavior, at least. But say if you have something like persistent dungeons, it does actually save between entering and exiting. So... in that case, if you entered a dungeon and we had this set, our thing set to a random treasure, then it would actually try to re-roll them to make it another chest or something, which I don't really want. And we could just check for that if we wanted to by just saying, like, don't do anything to our specific things, basically. But maybe we could do it even easier by just having the loot container type be nothing, potentially. Let's see in what cases these are used to determine things. Oh, that's funny. I think, Penwick Papers has something possibly where maybe random treasure can be trapped, possibly. That's what that makes me looking at it. I have that source code in this, Unity environment of mine. Yeah, so it looks like nothing should work. But yeah, for now we'll just keep nothing and see if that works in the end. If not, we can change it to random treasure and then filter that out later on if we need to. Now inventory, container images, whoops. Images dot chest. Yeah, I mean, we could add our own, I think, somehow, but I don't know what the process would be for that exactly. So we're just gonna use the chest one, which I don't even know if it gets used normally at all. So I mean, it's fairly fitting, I guess. So what the heck? Position would be pos. Pos. Parent would be closed chest transform. No, wait. Dot parent. Dot parent. I don't know if that's necessary, but we'll see. If not, I could just remove some of those or add more if needed. I don't know if in this case it would be necessary for this create loot container method, but we'll see. They may not be as deep in a hierarchy as the other ones, but as I said, we'll see. Texture archive would be 811. 811. Record would be 0. Now let's see what these other variables. Load ID. I don't think we care about that. Create loot container. Let's see where this is referenced, because I don't want to just give it 0 and then it not work or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I want to solve that before it becomes a problem potentially, like here. Like, see what values it gives for that, if any. Load ID. Create unique load ID for save system. Block data dot position. Forget to do it. I might as well try to do it now, I guess, where I try to replicate what's going on there to get that load ID and such to be a somewhat random value. What I can do actually is just save that in LLC object from the previous loot container that was deleted, and that way, and then just use that instead, because it already created it, so why the hell not use it? Just have to go back a little bit and do this. Ulong. The load ID. Yes. Yeah, just call it load ID. Ulong. What is it? Load ID. Load ID. Yeah. And then go back down here. And do long old load ID. So equals loot piles. Load ID. And then pass that over to here. Load ID. Old load ID. Alright. That should work perfectly fine. And we should be able to just do closed chest data dot load ID. Alright, so that will work for that. It should, at least. What else is there? Enemy entity. We'll probably just, well, almost definitely keep that null, because there is no enemy entity attached to this chest. I mean, I plan on doing stuff like lockboxes and stuff eventually. But that'll be probably a separate mod in itself, potentially. But yeah, enemies, there shouldn't be any enemy entity attached. So just do that null. And what's the other one? Adjust position. What does this do? Now move up loot icon by half own size so bottom is aligned with position. Well, I don't think we necessarily need to do that, because it's going to do it anyway, because its default default value is true in that anyway, so we'll just leave it like that. And since the sprite is definitely going to change its dimensions in this case, we are going to want to do this in the end anyway. Align billboard to ground, at least. Yeah, I mean, we're doing that anyway down here, so it's like, yeah. Possibly. Now, I wonder if this create loot container, if this attaches a billboard, it must. Yes it does. Yes it does. So we could just get that component, as this is happening right here. And then just do what we're gonna do with it anyway. Which it already does some of that. So we can get rid of this stuff. Now, does that do align to ground? I don't think so. Yeah, it doesn't look like it, so we'll leave that for now. That's just receiving the bill. What happens? It's getting the component from that. Does not exist in the current context. I know why it's doing that. Yeah, it's because this before, instead of being loot, was a game object, I believe. Yeah, it was game object, so I was just referring to that. But oh yeah, all I have to do is this dot game object. There we go. And that should align it to the ground, at least, hopefully. Receiving the bill and getting the component first for the actual billboard that was created for it in the create loot container method here. So we're just getting that component and then using it to basically do this align billboard to ground thing again. Now we can destroy the old object. And that old object, in this case, is chest object reference. And then just for the sake of that, let's do this equals null to like empty that for other things to do it later if they need to. And as I said before, we'll do a simple check up here. That if this equals null, or is empty, we won't let it run, because otherwise, if we let it run and it is null over here, then we'll get a an error, a runtime error, or whatever it's called, right here, because it'll be like, it'll be trying to get component to something that is null or does not exist, and it'll be like, you know, object reference does not exist or whatever, or could not be found, whatever it says. You know, so you don't want that. You never really want errors like that if you could avoid them. Runtime errors, because that could cause other issues. So best way is to just kind of be like, oh, it's not there, well, let's go around it. You could also sometimes do stuff like try catch loops, or not, I don't know if the would try catch things, where you essentially, you catch when an error does happen, such as that, and then instead of throwing that error, it'll do the catch part. It'll do the catch part as like a basically, if this happens, if this error happens at any point in this part, then it does that thing instead, which is usually going to be like a fallback case or something, or some kind of recovery state. But in this case, we'll just no, if that if equals null, if does not equal null, else I'll do it better later, but in this case I just want one single line thing. For if statements, you could do, at least in C#, you can do like shortcuts or whatever you shorthand, where if you only have one single line basically, or maybe at least one single like line with a break, with a point here, like a colon, you could do without putting the semicolons or whatever, the brackets, whatever they're called, curly brackets. Which can make, you know, saves, depending on how you do it, save some lines, I guess. But a lot of people, or some people say they don't like doing that. I do a few times, here and there. Sometimes I'll do a curly bracket anyway, just for the sake of it. And, in this case, I might as well do a curly bracket, because later I'll probably have it anyway, so just do it like that. Slightly more proper, I suppose. Just like that for now, I guess. Just in case. Just so then you at least know what happened, why this doesn't run if this checked object reference, test object reference is found as null for some reason. That's dotting your P's and Q's, as some might say, or your, however they say, dotting your I's and stuff. That's how you could calm out a big section of code, if you want to. Those two things between each other, basically, will calm out the entire thing between them, which is nice. Pretty much did everything that we want to do. Now, just to be cute, and we'll want to do this later anyway, but let's see how, when you unlock a door in-game, how that click sound is made. The unlocking sound, and we will do that for this, just so it has a little bit of extra feedback there, hopefully. We're basically going to be doing something similar to here, but more complex. Maybe not in the end, but overall, like how these things are chance roll determined or whatever, for the actual unlocking process. But for right now, it's just like every time it'll succeed. We can possibly get it from here. Just always forget the syntax on how to do this. It's like game manager dot player activate or something like that. Game manager dot player act. No, apparently not. Dot instance dot player activate dot. Yeah, I guess that works. That does not, if this does not equal null, then it will try to play the activate unlock sound. Sweet. Alright, so right now it looks good to me, at least for the pick lock part, which the other ones are probably going to be very extremely similar logic. It's just a few differences here and there when I get into the polishing stuff, more details. But I can't see anything right now that I might be missing. So now we have that global variable there and all that. Oh, I know what I'm missing. Almost completely forgot. I need to add a new texture for the open state. I guess we could just use this for now. Placeholder, even though it's going to be different dimensions and look kind of weird, but it looks like an open chest. It's an open thing of something, so we'll use that for now for placeholder. Later on, we'll actually make new sprites and stuff like that, or use new sprites and such that are more appropriate. So I should just add that to, what was it? Here, assets, game, mods, locked loot containers, textures. Put that here. and then add a 1 to that, so it's 811. Then when we launch the Unity, we'll change the texture properties and stuff. And, alright, since now we have that, 811, we will save our changes. And we will actually launch the, we'll actually launch the Unity editor, which, as usual, is going to take a few minutes, so I'm going to pause the video, and then I'll be back when it has launched. See you in a sec. Okay, so we are back in our test dungeon, and we are at the spot with all of our chests and everything. I imported the texture that I put in, and I put the correct settings and everything, so it should be good. I also saved it to our mod and everything. But alright, let's see what happens, if anything. So, cancel. Reject. That's not gonna work, so accept. Haha! The lock clicks open. Now it's curious that it doesn't align back to the ground. Ah. What happened here? I think I forgot something. I think I forgot something. Yeah, so there is something funky going on here. Even though it is working to some extent, which is good. You know, the actual texture is being properly loaded and replaced and all that. And it's making the click sound and everything. And it is acting like a loot pile. But, and also that's curious that this is changed up there. I don't know if that's intended or not, or whatever. But the fact that the loot is gone, that is an issue. So we're gonna have to go out and see why that is. Oh, whoops. So, let's see if we could figure it out by just looking at it. I think I know why, actually. Is the create loot container isn't, I mean, at the very least, oh, I should have looked at that too, but we'll figure it out once we get this other stuff figured out. Interestingly enough, the create loot container is not asking for a loot, it's not asking for the item collection. But why is that? So how does it get the loot itself? I'm guessing it does it later on, but we shall see. Yeah, that's why. So we'll actually just have to, yeah, since we already have the object, it's not a big deal, actually. We already have the object right here. Parent object. Yeah, I'll just do it 2 lines down. I don't need to comment it right now. Just say closed chest parent object. Oh. Damn it. Closed chest parent object dot boot, probably, or no. Items, yep. Equals closed chest boot. Say what? Read only. Oh, I think maybe this is the case. Well, thank you, Penwick. Dunny of Penwick, for your, Penwick Papers useful code. I mean, not... I'm sure I could have figured that out from another piece of code, but it just happened to be right there, so thank you. So I probably have to use one of these, things that are in item collection to do it, instead of just directly like that. But first thing I want to do... Close chest parent object. This is gonna be open chest. Open chest. Loot. Loot. Yeah, let's call it that, because that's what it is. And then I can call it... Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's more proper. More proper to what it actually is. Yeah, I can't do that directly, so I gotta use the, things. Such as transfer all, so... Be removed from source collection and placed in this collection. That's what I want. So what I have to do in that case is transfer all... Be removed from source collection. So I want to actually... Oops. I want to actually call that like this. Closed chest loot dot transfer all. And then put it into this dot items. Yeah. Why does that work though? Okay, so it's not transferring the entire like item collection in one go, like copy and pasting it. It's doing each individual item value by the dictionary of values. I don't know why it does it like that, but I'm sure there's a good reason. But yeah, that's why you can't do it like I was trying to do. Because that, items is a read-only type of item. You can see what's in it, but you can't, set it directly from the, object or whatever. But that's fine enough when you got stuff like this. Transfer all from the item collections class. So now we should have the items transferred from the closed chest loot to the open chest loot. And then we also wonder why the transform, or whatever, not the transform, but why this doesn't seem to be doing what we're expecting it to. And it's possibly because we got rid of that stuff that was already there. Maybe. Like this stuff. That's potentially why. In that case, I don't know why it didn't work in the first place. Alright, but now the loot should be in there. And possibly it should be aligned to the floor properly. One thing I should remember to do is actually check the hierarchy. Well, one thing that's gonna suck actually right now is I can't really check it perfectly. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Because there's not gonna be any other loot piles in the scene, because I already deleted all of them and such to replace them with mine. So we'll see. We'll see later when we check the hierarchy. Not a huge deal. Most likely. But we'll check it anyway to see where they are. Okay, now let us see what happens. The lock clicks open. Did I forget something? I saved. Well, I guess now that we're in the editor, we can check where these things are. So that's in flats. This is probably in flats as well. No, it's in... Nothing. Huh. Why is it nothing? I mean, I don't know what that means necessarily, but that is curious. That seems to have not worked. Neither did, apparently. So in this weird case, we're going to do some live debugging, because that's better than just kind of bumbling around for longer than you really need to just kind of see what the heck is going on. What do we got? Step over. Closed chest loot equals closed chest data dot attached loot. Okay. So there is stuff in here. There is 2 items in there, supposedly. And now we're creating the open chest loot object. It's it is an object, but it's like yeah, it's just a different type, kind of. Different type of component. I mean, it's possible that setting it to nothing is causing an issue or something, but I don't know. I kind of doubt that. So then doing transfer all should transfer all of that to this. So let's step into that and see what happens. So this is referring to the, or at least the source. This and source. So I think maybe I confused it or something. So it looks like if, maybe I confused the order. So source equals null, which it's not. It's not, but it's empty. So items in source dot items dot values equals add item. So it looks like it's actually adding the empty items to the full one, possibly. But let's see. So add items, item, which are in source, which have 0. So let's see if we can, oh crap. Yeah, 4 each, so it's 0. So I think that's the reason. I think that's the reason for that, at least. Oh, wait, I think I kind of transfers all items from another collection. Okay, I see. I was reading that wrong, so I had to do it the reverse order there. So, open chest loot dot game object, or the hell is it? What was it again? Is loot dot item collection items dot transfer, yeah, transfer all, and then do that closed dot, or just, yeah, that's just an item collection. Now it should work, that part at least. Take that breakpoint off for now. Well, actually, I could just, what do you call it? Disable it, so it won't. Well, I'm not even going to be running it in debug mode after I save it here, until I possibly want to debug why it's not aligning it to the floor. My only guess that it's not aligning it to the floor is because it thinks it's aligned to the floor already or something? Because I'm giving it the old position? I don't know. I think that might that might possibly be the problem. I'm not sure. But that is not nearly as big of a issue as the loot not being there. But I think I saw my mistake. And it's also kind of curious that um these were being placed in like that kind of weird parent position, but we'll see. Except there's the loot. There it is. Got some giant's blood, some gold. The usual. Alright. So that seems to have worked. What was the other thing I wanted to check? I want to see if they're in the proper thing. They... Not really. Not really. They're in, their own, like, you know, it kind of works, because that's kind of what's happening, it looks like, with the corpses, where they're just kind of being thrown into that. Why do they have that plus, though? I don't know what that plus means. Yeah, I don't know what the heck that plus means. Maybe that means that there's more to it or something? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's up with that. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Can I see other stuff like the ID? Apparently not. Or maybe I'm just not looking at it the right spot. Apparently it doesn't show that. Okay. So let me check. Just see what happens when I loot this. I'm guessing it disappears. It doesn't. What causes that to... Like, I don't actually mind that. Because it's like a physical object we're trying to kind of make here, like a chest. So I think it kind of makes sense that if it doesn't have anything, it doesn't disappear. But, oh, maybe it's probably a characteristic that maybe only, like, certain things have, like, random loot, if they're assigned that variable. That's what I'm guessing. And that's nothing, they don't do anything. Like, corpses are probably similar, where they don't disappear and get deleted when they get the inventory cleared. That's my guess. That's not necessarily a bad thing in this case. I still want to figure out why that's not, why they're floating. And one thing I want to test. Let's go to some dungeon that is not a cemetery and see where in the scene the loot piles are placed. There's a loot pile. Random treasure. And that is under flats. That is under flats. So we might have went too far. So maybe we just need one parent. So I'm going to try that. No idea if that's going to help at all. But let's see as well what we might be able to do here. Why it's doing that. Yeah, maybe we'll just let it do its thing and this billboard and just hope that it does its own job. I don't know. No harm trying it out and seeing what happens, I suppose. Alright, so now we just want to test it. See if it'll line up, and also see if that, what do you call it, that parent changing does anything. I'd kind of like them to have the texture name, just like the other stuff, the flat stuff, but I don't know. It might give it a name depending on its container type if you do it like this, whereas the other ones, they might already have a game object or something. I guess we'll just have to not be too concerned about it for now, I guess. But anyway, let's test. Let us test in-game, see if it'll line up with the floor right, and see if the parent nesting thing is better. Okay. Uh-huh. So, it's not perfect, but it's better. It's not perfect, but it's better. For the alignment part, at least. So that's good. We could probably fix it better somehow. By just not doing the other stuff we did or something. I don't know. We could probably fix it. Well, of course we could fix it, but I don't know if we could fix it right this moment, but sure we can. Think of something. Damn, that's a lot more than the other ones. Alright, now let's check the hierarchy of stuff. Player, that, camera. Yeah, that's better. Now they're in the flats with the other stuff. And perhaps we could change the name to something else. Or something. So so it'll be like named after the billboard like the others. Alright, so now we want to try and polish better the floor alignment as well as get the names possibly more accurate or whatever, better. I don't know. Maybe instead of using the game object, or instead of using just the loot, that object itself, we could use the game object. I don't know if that'll change anything. I don't think so, but what the hell. Yeah, I don't know. Just trial and error with that, I guess. I'm not 100% sure what's going on there. And now about the name in the editor. Or whatever the actual, like, object's name. I would like that to be like the others. Alright, so now in theory that should, at the very least change the game object name to, what we want to with the flat, texture archive name, or whatever the number, and then the texture record at the end, just like the others. And for the other stuff, with the position, that's just going to be trial and error right there, because I don't know if that'll work or not. So, alright, so what we did messed up the position even more, as we could see. But let's see if the names got fixed. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Alright. Well, that's good with the names at least. So then, if we did do an activate object thing with that, then it would, custom activation with that, then it should work. Yeah. So it should work now, which is good. But now we still have to fix the position thing. So clearly what we did not help. It actually made it worse. But why is that? I'm honestly guessing the reason is that the dimensions are slightly different for the sprite that I'm using. Then the beginning sprite dimensions are slightly different than the new one. But I'm using like the same position here. That's just my guess, though. Okay, I'm back after a short pause, and, so I was able to fix the position. Um, yeah. I don't know why I was kind of thinking that changing the dimensions would cause some issue with it. But apparently not. So now it, like, actually looks fairly seamless almost. Alright. That is very cool. Here, I'll just show you. I'll just show you what I did. So, I took out all the set position crap that I was doing. And, I also told the create loot container thing to not do the adjust position thing. So, it's just using the position that the closed chest originally had, which is just completely unaltered, I guess. So, yeah. In that case, I didn't actually have to change anything, apparently. That was actually screwing things up. So now it is basically perfectly aligned with the floor like the other one was. But yeah, this recording has gone on pretty damn long. But I'm pretty happy. I made a pretty good amount of useful progress, I'd say, this episode. I still have a lot more stuff to do, obviously, a whole lot more stuff to do, but that's some really cool starts to getting towards, you know, like, the more polished and detailed stuff. That's like a pretty big step, I suppose. And maybe it's not the best way to do it, but right now this just seems like the best way to do it, for me at least, that I could think of. I'm sure there's other ways, much better possible ways to do it, but for right now, it seems to work, so we'll probably leave it as is. I'm not exactly sure right now what's the next aspects I'll be working on in the next episode, but for this episode, I'm pretty happy with progress we made. We got the chest to actually open, you know, quote-unquote unlock, and they actually have the loot inside of them. They become a lootable object. They have their position correct. They change to the next sprite that they're supposed to be. They also delete the old object, the old closed chest and stuff, and retain whatever stuff, so they just become like a loot pile and everything. So yeah, right now I'm pretty happy with the progress I made just there, but for this episode, it's gone on long enough, so I will end it now, but thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.